gave me a reason to be leery, I would be a complete and utter idiot. But at the same time, I would say going into this particular profession, not to excuse what this fucking asshole did, because that's terrible and unforgivable, but going into this profession, there are an inherent number of things to be leery about, and you need to sort of steel yourself against the paranoia. Now, there are things like that, they make you feel like, man, there's a lot of legitimate concerns that I need to be thinking about because I'm not a fucking idiot, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just turn a blind eye to stories like that. They're frightening, and they really do, make you wake up and realize just how dangerous what you're doing is. But at the same time, you think, well, I knew going into this that there were any number of risks, risk factors involved, and I chose, because of probably my ignorance and naivete and youth and whatever you want to blame it, you can blame it on whatever you want, fucking shitty attitude, but I chose that this is what I wanted to do, fuck all, regardless, in spite of the risk. So, I guess you get tested as often as you can. I personally, my sister-in-law is a lab technician, and I get tested every time I go home, which probably is not as often as I should, but I do it as often as I can because it's free. And you try to keep counsel with people that you trust are getting tested as regularly as you are, or more so, and you hope for the best. You know what I mean? Life is a fucking crapshoot. You try and protect yourself in a bubble from everything shitty and dangerous and risky that might happen, and you're not going to end up doing anything. So you got to weigh the odds. And when shit like this happens, and all these hepatitis scares that people have been telling me about and stuff, it's really it's worrisome. I'm not going to lie, it's absolutely worrisome. But at the same time, am I going to give up doing what I love because there's a risk involved? No, because there has been a risk involved with, this choice I've made since the beginning. And just because I'm looking at, other possible risks doesn't necessarily mean that it is increased. It's just now it's in the spotlight because of a certain set number of cases that have come out or whatever, I mean, I do my best. I get tested as frequently as I can. I think that it should, one thing that I agree with Dustin Lee on, which is very fucking few things, because that guy was an asshole. But one thing that I agree with him on is that if you're going to promote deathmatch wrestling, you really ought to save up enough money to make sure that the people on your show get tested prior. But realistically, we live in a shitty world where things do not happen the way they ought to, and it's not going to happen. I mean, if everybody who wants to run a show has to raise so much money to get the venue and get the stips and get the guys, and then add on top of that getting the testing done, which is not cheap, in this fucking bullshit country of ours with our ridiculous.
Well, I hate to cut you off, but it actually is cheap. You can go to any Red Cross and donate blood, and they have to, by law, disclose to you whether or not you test positive for HIV, hepatitis, any of that stuff. So, I mean, in essence...
Man, I don't know this. It's not cheap if you go to a proper medical lab. I know this, because if, as I said, if my sister-in-law wasn't giving me the hookup, she told me what it would cost me, and it was not something that I could realistically afford on a regular basis.
Well, no, it's not something anybody could realistically afford on a regular basis, which I think is a reason why there's such a panic going on with it right now, is because not enough people are being tested.
The point I'm making is that it should happen. It absolutely should happen, but a lot of things should happen in this world that don't, and if I realistically expect to continue doing what I love to do, which is, breaking shit with my body, unhealthy as it may be, I'm going to have to accept the risk that is inherent with it, I guess, and I guess it's unfortunate. It's a reality of the world we live in and the situation of the business that we choose to participate in, but I think it is a reality nonetheless.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about this
Oh
past
shit, I just ran out
August.
of booze, dude.
You just ran out of booze?
Ran out of booze. The whole
That's,
thing's going downhill now.
oh, hell. Look out. Well, it's a good thing we've only got about 20 minutes left, so
Alright.
if we can make it that long, we're doing good. I'd like to go back to August 30th of this year, and that was a very tragic
I was
day.
too. I've made so many mistakes since then. I'd like to go back there and fix them all.
Yeah, I think a lot of us would like to go back to that day.
Okay, go ahead.
That, of course, is the day that a good friend of both of ours passed away, J.C. Bailey.
August 30th. That means it was like a year ago almost, right?
It was almost a year ago. That's correct. Yeah.
Incredibly hard to believe.
Mm-hmm. It really is hard to believe it's been almost a year. What were your initial thoughts when you received the phone call telling you that the JC was no longer with us?
I was destroyed, man. I was absolutely destroyed. It's I don't want to cheapen it by tying it into my reality specifically, but I had gone through a very long and difficult period of unemployment and was broke as a fucking joke and really doing badly in life, and as I want to do from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, I guess, that day was my first day of work in like 2 years. And I started a new job, and it didn't seem to be that bad, and the sun was out, and the birds were fucking chirping, and I just thought, I might be alright here, man. Things might be turning around. And I went on my morning break at 9 o'clock, and I had a whole bunch of missed calls. I'm like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And right as I'm about to listen to a voicemail, somebody cuts in, and I think the first person I heard it from was former CZW referee Derek Sabato. And he said, hey, Grant, I just want to let you know, if you hadn't heard, that they found JC this morning. And my heart just fucking sank down into my stomach. And I had heard a message prior to that from Mike Burns, and he said, hey, give me a call. I got some bad news, and it was very serious and solemn. And the first thing I thought was something's happened to JC, but I didn't want to believe. I was trying to look. I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's bad news. Like he was booking CZW at 7. Maybe maybe somebody's not going to make it to TOD or whatever. I don't know. I guess it was after TOD. Maybe somebody's not going to. The storyline's fucked up. I was just really hoping it was something minor like that, and he was just being melodramatic. But when I heard that, my heart just sank, and I just, oh man, it was one of the toughest days of my entire life. And hopefully my life doesn't get so bad that I'll have a lot more days like that, because I can't imagine, being that bad. It was terrible, man. I absolutely love JC. My best friends in the world, and it's just tragic.
It really was. It really was tragic. There were a lot of tribute shows put on. I believe you did the one in Indianapolis, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Seeing all these people get together and respectfully put on a show, donating their time to work just for JC's memory. What was being a part of something like that like for you?
You know what? It was wonderful. It was a beautiful. It was so short notice, of course, because obviously nobody can plan for these things. But one of my best friends in the world, Drake Younger, got to give him all the credit
Absolutely.
He brought it together for that particular tribute show. I know there were others held, but that was the one I was a part of, and he brought that together on very short notice and made it happen. And me and Devin Moore and Sammy Callahan were the three like East Coast guys who went out there, and we were all in dire financial straits because, you know, we're indie wrestlers, so we never had much money. And this is something I will give a lot of credit to DJ Hyde for. He was sympathetic enough to the situation. Of course, JC had been one of his employees and one of his friends and so on, and he put up the money just to rent us a car to make sure we were able to get out there and do the show, you know, and to represent CZW. Wanted CZW to have representatives there, as well as close friends of JC be able to be there to, you know, do something for him. And DJ couldn't come himself, so he did put up the, you know, and so that's one of those things where, like, DJ gets on my nerves a lot, but I will give him all the credit in the world for those little, like, human kindnesses that he will do. But anyway, like, to be a part of that was incredible, and I was so glad we were able to make it out there. And it was
kind of a who's who of indie wrestlers out there that night,
God,
too.
Yeah,
John Moxley and Sammy and Toby Klein.
Everybody that, you know, JC had been friends with, or even, you know, touched in some small way, that was able to make it and do the show was there. And it was really a great thing. And I know that going back to Drake's afterward, I kind of felt deflated. I ended up getting concussed at that show, so I didn't really know what was going on at the end of it. But I kind of felt deflated because I had this, like, real shitty, sick sort of feeling in my stomach that we hadn't raised a whole lot of money, and I felt bad about that. And we got back to Drake's, and I talked to him, and he said that we had raised more than, like, the amount that was expected, and they were able to buy the tombstone and everything, and that was wonderful. I felt so good about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and what a wonderful tombstone it is. I have yet to actually go down and see it myself, but I've seen pictures, and I don't think JC could be honored any better than the way he was, not just on that show, but all of the tribute shows that took place. And who did you work that night? It slips my mind now.
I wrestled Moxley, I believe.
That's right. I was the referee for that match. How could I forget? Holy shit.
Yep.
Because that was such an experience for me to get to work with John Moxley and yourself, and I was very intimidated because I'd heard so many horror stories about you, and I had just seen Moxley. Well, yeah,
horror stories about me. What kind of horror stories are you?
Like, you know, you were just rough, and you know, stay out of your way, etc. Don't you
That
know?
is completely untrue. I'm the nicest guy in the world. Or you get these goddamn bullshit theories.
Well, and as I'm learning, you were very very great at the show when I met you in September. You've been very forthcoming on my show. You've answered every single call I've ever sent out to you, and I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about you.
These are obviously lies. I'm extremely pleasant. I don't know where.
Yeah, and actually,
you've been talking to some slanderers. That's what's happening.
Probably, yeah. And actually, you know, I got a really good feel for who you really were from watching, and this is where we're going to transition to now, watching your Japanese YouTube videos of you and Drake and just marking out for... Oh, yeah, like the one I seen of Drake was just with Drake in it, where he was just marking out for everybody. It was just hilarious, and I just remember going, oh my God, what a feeling that must be to, you know... be back at the hotel and just, you know, be so wound up and not be able to go back to sleep because of the people that you know you either just got to work or you're on your way to the next town to work the next morning or whatever. Tell us a little bit about your Japanese experience.
Yeah, well, yeah, man, I expected it to be exciting. Obviously, this was based on the sort of wrestling I do and the sort of goals you might imagine me to have. That was obviously right at the top of the list, you know. And every indie wrestler, whether they do hardcore or what have you, you know what I mean, strong style, high flying, etc., etc., etc. Most indie wrestlers want to go to Japan. Of course, there are always a few who are strictly interested in moving up the ladder in the United States and getting to TNA or the Fed or what have you. But most indie wrestlers at some point have